German services PMI data for December just out. As you can see there, the final reading coming in at 52.4. That is up from November's 50.3. Above the 50 no change mark for the third month running and the strongest since July. But it is down from the flash reading of 52.7. We're going to have the Eurozone as a whole, those numbers in just a few minutes. But first, let's look at these German numbers. Rob Dobson from Market joins me now. They, of course, put this survey together. What's caused this downward revision?
Well, what we've seen is we've seen a slight easing in the rate of expansion between the flash and the final, and that suggests that conditions in Germany are not as strong as we thought. But again, it's a slight revision, so we're still seeing growth overall.
Okay, and what sectors are driving that growth?
Oh, well, it's the financial intermediation sector, the business services sector, and the post and telecommunication sector, which recorded growth this month.
So it is actually new demand rather than backlogs?
Well, that's the case. We saw new business and service providers actually rose this month. We are still seeing service providers deplete backlogs of work a little bit to sustain activity growth. But there was some new demand in there as well.
I can't remember your take, but if as most economists think, there is a chance of recession in Germany, why are companies continuing to hire there? And we've seen this trend in Germany as opposed to anywhere else.
Well, Germany obviously was one of the Eurozone economies that wised up to the fact it was competing, internationally against places such as China, India, Brazil, more so than just within the single market. So it did a lot of restructuring of its labour market leading into the global economic downturn. That saw it through that downturn quite well. And as it's picked up, we must remember that at the beginning of last year, Germany was seeing some of its fastest rates of growth post-reunification. And that's obviously squeezed capacity, and that's meant that they can continue to hire, even though things are slowing. And we're still seeing growth in the service sector, so hiring would be normally appropriate.
Very quickly, before we look at these Eurozone numbers, input inflation, 6-month high. Is this being passed on by the service providers?
To a moderate extent. We're seeing some modest charge increases by service providers, which does protect their margins to some extent. This is in marked contrast to what we're seeing at manufacturers, where costs are falling, but they're still seeing charges continue to rise.
Because we've got inflation data out later today. What are you expecting there?
I'm not expecting much change. Inflation data is a month-by-month series, and it's an annual rate of change, so you don't tend to see much movement in it. But I think the expectation is for inflationary pressures to start to subside in the medium term anyway. So we may see something like that.
Anything else, very quickly, specifically in these German numbers that you notice that stands out for you?
I think the thing for me which really does stand out is still that labour market is continuing to hold up well. We saw the unemployment figures come down to 6.8% with the data released yesterday, and that's a low for Germany. And if they can sustain growth, and that means that unemployment can continue to tick down. Okay,
very good, Rob. We're just going to get these Eurozone numbers. They're coming through in just a second. There you go. Service sector activity contracting for a fourth straight month in December. 48.8, though, is a 3-month high, up from 47.5 in November, and above the earlier flash estimate of 48.3. Still in contraction, but above the flash. What is causing this upturn?
Well, France was a lot stronger than what we saw last month, in particular, in terms of, it's a sharp contraction last month, came to stagnation at the composite level this month. But again, I think what this reinforces to me is that Germany, even with growth moderating and even chances that the Eurozone is going to slip back into recession, Germany's probably still the best of a bad bunch here, in the sense that it's still seeing some growth at the headline level. France is at stagnation, but we're seeing a marked disparity there between what we saw with Spain and Italy with the numbers today. Spain and Italy are still in quite deep downturns. And
the weakness, obviously, the overall weakness is very much reflective of that drag from the periphery.
Exactly. The periphery has been a problem for a number of months and continues to do so. And until other factors which are hitting confidence, such as the ongoing debt crisis, the global economic slowdown, which we seem to be seeing, then until those factors are resolved, then obviously the periphery is going to be at a very much a competitive disadvantage.
Okay, Rob, many thanks for coming in today. Rob Dobson of Market. Join us again at midday for Trading at Noon, our lunchtime look at the morning's market action here in Europe. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.